I've been driving the night shift long enough to know the difference between fear and fatigue. Fear is sharp. Fatigue is dull. That night felt dull. The highway was empty in the way it always is after midnight. Not silent, just hollow. The kind of empty where sound travels too far. My tires hummed against the asphalt. The radio whispered static between late-night talk shows and old songs nobody requests anymore. I drove because nights made sense to me. Less people. Less noise. Less pretending. You learn patterns when you drive nights. Drunks on Fridays. Lost tourists before dawn. The occasional silence that feels heavier than it should. But nothing supernatural. Nothing worth stories. I didn't believe in those. I believed in mirrors, mileage, and the quiet rules of the road. That's why I noticed the seatbelt. Because before she ever got in the car, before I ever slowed down on mile 41, the passenger seatbelt was unfastened. I always check. The call came through the app at 2:17 a.m. Pickup location. Unmarked stretch of rural highway. Drop off. Private residence. No rating. No profile photo. That alone wasn't strange. Some people don't bother. Some accounts glitch. You learn not to ask questions if you want to keep driving. Still, I hesitated. There's a point on that road where your headlights don't quite reach the trees. The beam just dies into black, like the darkness is absorbing it. That was where the pin was dropped. I told myself I was tired. I told myself I needed the fare. Then I slowed down. She was standing on the shoulder, facing away from the road. No phone. No bag. Just a thin jacket, arms wrapped around herself like she was cold, even though it was late summer. I rolled the window down halfway. "Are you the ride?" I asked. She turned slowly. She looked normal. That was the first thing. Not pale. Not injured. Just tired. Younger than I expected. Early 20s maybe. Her hair was damp, like she'd been walking a while. "Yes," she said. "Thank you." Her voice wasn't shaky. It was calm. Too calm for someone stranded on a highway at night. She opened the passenger door and got in. The air changed. Not dramatically. No gust. No sound. Just a shift. Like when you step into a room where someone was arguing a moment ago, and the tension hasn't left yet. I glanced down automatically. The seatbelt was fastened. Locked in place across the empty seat. I frowned. "That's weird," I muttered, reaching over and unclicking it before she could sit. She didn't react. Didn't even look at it. She sat down, closed the door gently, and stared straight ahead. I pulled back onto the road. "Where to?" I asked. She gave me the address. I repeated it back to her just to be sure. She nodded. "My house," she said quietly. I drove. A minute passed. Then two. The cold started in my chest. We drove for a while without speaking. That wasn't unusual. Most night passengers prefer silence. Still, I became aware of how quiet the car was. Not just no talking, but no movement. No shifting in the seat. No adjusting the window. She sat perfectly still, hands folded in her lap. The road curved through fields and patches of trees. My headlights swept over empty bus stops, old signs bent by wind, mailboxes leaning like they were tired of standing. I glanced at her in the mirror. Her eyes were open, watching the road ahead. "Long walk?" I asked, mostly to break the silence. "Yes," she said. Just that. One word. "Car trouble." I tried again. She hesitated this time. Not like she was thinking. More like she was deciding whether the answer mattered. "I missed my turn," she said finally. Something about that stuck with me. Missed my turn. People usually say they got lost. Or that their phone died. Or that Google Maps messed up. Missing a turn sounded deliberate. Like the road itself had made a choice. I told myself I was overthinking. That's what night shifts do. They stretch thoughts out longer than they deserve. We passed another mile marker. 41. I felt it again, that cold. Not air conditioning cold. Something deeper. Like the heat inside my chest was slowly being drawn out through my ribs. I adjusted the temperature, then realized it was already warm. "You okay?" I asked. She nodded. "I'm fine." Her breath didn't fog the window. Mine did. I watched it disappear with the swipe of the wipers. The address she gave me was coming up soon. I recognized the road now, an older residential stretch, houses spaced far apart, some with lights on, most dark. No street lamps. The kind of place where darkness settles instead of passing through. Is someone waiting for you? I asked. She shook her head. No, she said. I live alone. That made my grip tighten on the wheel. I don't know why. Living alone isn't strange. But something about the way she said it, flat, final, made it feel less like a fact and more like a rule. We turned onto the road. The GPS hesitated. Then recalculated. Then hesitated again. Signal's bad out here, I muttered. She didn't answer. The house appeared suddenly, headlights catching the edge of a driveway that shouldn't have been there. No mailbox. No porch light. Just a structure sitting back from the road, half hidden by trees. Old. Not abandoned, but not lived in either. The windows were dark. Every single one. I slowed down. This is it? I asked. Yes, she said. I pulled to a stop at the edge of the drive. The tires crunched softly on gravel. She reached for the door, then paused. Her hand hovered there for a moment, fingers slightly curled. Thank you, she said, still not looking at me. Yeah, no problem. She opened the door. Cold rushed in. Real cold this time, sharp and sudden, like opening a freezer. Crawled over my hands, my neck, down my spine. She stepped out. The door closed. I watched her in the side mirror as she walked up the driveway. Halfway there, she stopped, turned around. For a second, I thought she was going to say something else. Ask me to wait. Ask me to come with her. Ask me anything. Instead, she looked at the passenger seat. Not at me, but the seat. Then she nodded once, and continued toward the house. I waited until she reached the front door. She didn't unlock it. Didn't knock. She just stepped forward, and disappeared into the darkness where the door should have been. I sat there longer than I meant to. Then I pulled away. The cold didn't leave. Usually, once a passenger gets out, the car feels lighter, warmer, like a held breath being released. This time it felt heavier. I rolled the windows down. Nothing. Turned the heat up. Nothing. That's when I heard it. The click. Soft. Plastic. The sound a seatbelt makes when it locks into place. My eyes dropped to the passenger seat. The belt was fastened. Tight. Pulled flat against the empty seat, just like before. I stared at it for a long time. Then I reached over and unclicked it. It snapped back into place like it always does. I drove. Didn't check the mirror again. Didn't turn around. I just kept driving until the road widened and the GPS stopped recalculating. Later that night, when I ended my shift, I checked the trip history. The ride was there. Pickup location. Drop-off address. But under passenger name, there was nothing. No name. No rating. Just a blank space. I laughed quietly to myself. Told myself it was a glitch. Told myself I was tired. I went home, slept badly, and woke up with a bruise across my chest. The exact shape of a seatbelt. I didn't drive the next night. I told myself it was just fatigue. Long shifts mess with your head, especially when you let silence grow too loud. I slept late, tried to shake off the image of that seatbelt, that house, the way she looked at the passenger seat instead of me. Still, when I woke up, the bruise was there. Dark purple. Clean line across my chest. Exactly where the belt would sit. I pressed on it. It hurt. Not the dull ache of a dream body injury. The sharp, honest pain of something that had actually happened. That was the moment I stopped pretending. Back in the car that evening, the first thing I checked was the camera. Most people don't even realize taxis record video inside the cabin. Mine had a forward-facing dash cam and a smaller interior camera mounted above the rearview mirror. I scrolled back to the previous night. Found the ride. Mile 41. My hands were sweating by the time the video loaded. First, everything looked normal. Me pulling over. The car idling. Headlights cutting through darkness. Then the passenger door opened. The camera angle didn't catch her face clearly. Just the side of her coat, the movement of fabric, the seat compressing as she sat down. That's when I froze. The seatbelt. On the footage, it was already fastened. Before she sat. Before the door even closed. I rewound. Watched again. The belt lay flat against the seat, locked into place, like someone had buckled it and left. Then she sat over it. The belt didn't move, didn't slide, didn't shift. She sat there like the belt was part of the seat, or like she didn't need it at all. I leaned closer to the screen. My breath fogged the glass. As the ride continued, I noticed something else. She never moved. Not once. No fidetin. No adjusting. No change in posture. Even when the road curved sharply, her body stayed perfectly upright. Like she wasn't reacting to motion because motion didn't affect her. When we reached the house, I watched the moment she got out. The door opened. The cold ripple distorted the image. Static flickered across the screen. She stepped out. The door closed. The seatbelt was still fastened. Then something I hadn't seen before. Right before I drove away, the belt tightened. Not snapped. Not clicked. It tightened slowly, deliberately, as if pulled by an invisible hand. I shut the video off. I didn't tell anyone. Who would I even tell? Hey, I think I gave a ride to someone who didn't exist, and now my car remembers her. Instead, I started asking questions. I searched the address. Nothing. No current listings. No residents. So I went deeper. Old property records. Archived maps.
Local forum.
That's when I found it. A small article, buried in a community archive from 20 years ago. House fire on County Road 12, 1 fatality. A photo accompanied it. Grainy. Nighttime. The house looked exactly the same. Same trees. Same driveway. The victim's name was listed below. I stared at it until my eyes burned. Same last name as the one attached to the ride. The first name matched too. I closed my laptop, sat there in the dark, and felt something cold settle into the passenger seat beside me. That night I didn't pick anyone up. But at exactly 2:17 a.m., my app logged a ride. Pickup. My current location. Drop off. Mile 41. Passenger status. On board. I didn't move. The seatbelt clicked. I stopped driving for a week. Deleted the app. Unplugged the dash cam. Parked the car 3 blocks away from my apartment like distance alone could make it forget. It didn't help. Every night around 2:17 a.m., my phone vibrated once.
No notification.
No sound. Just a single pulse like a heartbeat. I learned not to look at it right away. The screen always felt colder when I did. On the 7th night, curiosity won. The app had reinstalled itself. Same interface. Same login. One active ride. Pickup. Unknown. Drop off. Mile 41. Passenger, on board. I didn't accept it. I didn't decline it. I just stared. Then a message appeared in the driver chat. The one normally used for support. You missed your last shift. I typed back before I could stop myself. Who is this? 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. We've always needed someone. I threw the phone onto the couch like it had burned me. The next day I went to the depot. Every city has one. A bland concrete building where rideshare drivers come for inspections, paperwork, disputes. I hadn't been there in months. The woman at the front desk barely looked up when I said my name. She typed, paused, then frowned. Didn't you quit? She asked. No, I said. I just took a break. She turned the screen slightly so I could see. My profile was grayed out. Status: inactive. Failure to complete final route. What final route? I asked. She shrugged. It's been there since wow. Since the year you signed up. That's impossible. She clicked another tab. A list of drivers appeared. Most names were marked active. Some were marked retired. A few were marked final route completed. She hesitated before scrolling. At the bottom there were 3 names. All marked final route incomplete. Mine was the newest. The other 2 were dated. One from 11 years ago. One from 20. I recognized the second date immediately. Same year as the fire. Can I see the ride logs? I asked. She hesitated again, then nodded. The logs were wrong. Not glitched. Not corrupted. Wrong. Every driver who had ever taken a passenger to mile 41 had done so more than once. Always at night. Always between 2 o'clock and 2:30 a.m. And always, eventually, the logs ended the same way. Passenger status. On board. Driver status. Unknown. No crash reports. No missing vehicle entries. Just silence. The woman leaned closer to the screen. People don't usually come back after that ride, she said quietly. Why? I asked. She swallowed. They say the seat doesn't feel empty anymore. That night, I dreamed I was driving. Same road. Same darkness. But this time I wasn't alone in the front seat. Someone was already there. Not sitting. Standing. Bent sideways. Folded wrong. Pressed against the ceiling like the space wasn't meant for her. Her head turned toward me. Her mouth didn't move. But I heard her voice clearly. You stopped too soon. I woke up choking. My apartment was silent. Except for the sound of fabric tightening. A soft pull. A familiar click. From the chair beside my bed. I met him in a place where people wait without expecting anything. A 24-hour car wash on the edge of the city. Neon lights buzzing like tired insects. The kind of place drivers go when they don't want to be seen, but don't trust staying home either. His name was Mark. At least that's what the app used to call him. He recognized my car before I recognized him. Stepped out from behind a vacuum station and raised 2 fingers. Not a wave, more like a signal. You drove mile 41, he said. Not a question. I didn't answer. He nodded anyway. Yeah, you did. We sat in silence for a minute. The brushes roared around another car. Water hammering metal like rain that hated being rain. You still feel it, don't you? He asked finally. The seatbelt, I said. The weight, he corrected. Mark had been driving longer than me. Back when rides were still paid in cash sometimes. Back when the app barely worked. He took the ride twice. The first time, the passenger got out. The second time, she didn't. She wasn't solid, he said, staring at his hands. More like the idea of someone who used to be. After his second mile 41 run, things started changing. He'd find condensation on the inside of his windshield. Handprints where no one sat. His radio would pick up voices only when the passenger seat was empty. And every time he tried to quit, the app would remind him. Final route pending. Why didn't you finish it? I asked. Mark smiled, thin, humorless. I did, he said. Just not the way they wanted. He leaned closer. The road doesn't end at mile 41, he whispered. That's just where people turn around. There's another stretch past it. Not on any map. Not even in memory unless you've driven it. The real route. He told me what happens if you keep going. The streetlights stop appearing one by one. Not turning off, just never existing ahead of you. Your headlights stop reflecting off signs. And eventually you stop feeling the seat beneath you. Because you're not the driver anymore. You don't disappear, Mark said. You switch. Switch what? Positions. He finished his route by refusing to let the passenger ride alone. On his third mile 41 run, when the temperature dropped and the belt tightened by itself, he did something no one else had logged. He spoke to her, asked her name, listened, stayed parked until dawn. The app screamed at him the entire time. Route time exceeded. Passenger distress. Complete final route. But when the sun came up, the weight lifted. The seatbelt slackened. And the app let him go. Why me then? I asked. Why didn't it stop with you? Mark stood up, wiping his hands on his jacket. Because you didn't talk to her, he said. You dropped her off. That night I accepted the ride. Pickup appeared automatically. Same spot as before. Same time.
2:17 a.m.
The car chilled the moment I pulled up. The door didn't open, but the belt tightened anyway. I didn't start driving. I swallowed. And for the first time I spoke to the empty seat. I know you're here, I said. And I think you've been alone for a long time. The air shifted. The cold deepened. And then, a voice. Not behind me, Not beside me. Inside the car itself. You finally noticed. I didn't turn the engine on. The app didn't like that. My phone vibrated violently in the cup holder. Route in progress. Passenger confirmed. Begin movement. I'm not driving, I said quietly. The cold thickened. Not sharper, heavier. Like pressure underwater. You always say that, the voice replied. It didn't sound angry. It sounded tired. She told me things drivers aren't supposed to hear. That the road wasn't cursed. That the app didn't create her. It only found her. People think places die when they're abandoned. She said that's wrong. Places don't die. They wait. Mile 41 used to be a shortcut. Then an accident. Then another. Then a story no one could quite remember correctly. Eventually, the road learned how to ask for company. I didn't mean to stay, she said. I just didn't know how to leave. Her last driver never spoke to her. He drove fast. Nervous. Music loud. When she reached for the handle, there was nothing there anymore. And when the car stopped, she stayed. Not in the seat. In the space where the seat remembered her. The app buzzed again. Final route required. Driver non-compliant. What happens if I drive? I asked. A pause. Then honesty. You'll finish my route, she said. And I'll finish yours. I pictured it instantly. Me sitting there. Belt tight. Cold where warmth used to be. Watching taillights disappear. Waiting for someone to notice. I thought of Mark. Of how he stayed. Of how he listened. So I did the only thing left. I unbuckled the passenger seatbelt. It resisted. The latch burned my fingers. The app screamed. Unauthorized action. Passenger safety compromised. I know, I whispered. That's the point. I opened the door. Cold air rushed in. But it wasn't empty. The shape beside me shifted. Not standing. Not sitting. Letting go. She didn't thank me. She didn't need to. The weight lifted like a breath finally released. The door closed by itself. Silence. My phone went dark. No apps. No maps. Just the lock screen. Normal time.
2:43 am.
I drove home without incident. No cold. No Weltteitening. No wait. I don't drive nights anymore. I sold the car. Sometimes when I sit in the back of a cab I still feel it. A pause. A hesitation. Like the seat is checking if I remember. I always unbuckle before I get out. Just in case.